Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour. In the United States, a tight presidential race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump as both try to win over undecided voters. Donald Trump condemns violence against minorities in Bangladesh, vows to boost ties with India. Rocket fire from Lebanon kills 7 in Israel as US officials try to push for a ceasefire. And in cricket, Will Young scores first 50 of the series as New Zealand take on India at the third and final test in Mumbai. Just days ahead of the presidential election, poll fever goes high in the United States. Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris campaigned in the western part of the country, crisscrossing the key swing states. DD India's Abhishek Bose brings us this report.
As the voting day approaches in the United States, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump remain in neck-to-neck competition. Both Trump and Harris campaigned in the western part of the US and key swing states like Arizona and Nevada. Harris concluded her schedule with a performance by Jennifer Lopez in Las Vegas as she seeks to connect with Latino voters in the final days of the election.
Right now, we are on the brink of an election that demands a choice. A choice between backwards and forwards, a choice between the past and the future, a choice between divided and united.
US Vice President and Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris urged voters to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump.
And we know we have an opportunity in this election to turn the page on a decade of Donald Trump trying to keep us divided and afraid of each other. We're done with that.
Donald Trump used anti-immigration rhetoric to sway voters during a rally in Nevada.
The United States is now an occupied country. Can you believe I have to say that? We're an occupied country. Through our open border, Kamala Harris is also actively aiding and abetting the worst human traffickers, child smugglers, drug dealers, and bloodthirsty criminal networks on the planet.
Early voting has begun in states across the country where voters can cast their ballots in person or by mail. More than 41 million Americans have already cast their ballots ahead of the election day on November 5. The latest polls by The Economist, YouGov and Tip Insights indicate that Harris has a slight lead of just 1 percentage point, with 44% of voters supporting her, while Trump is backed by 43%. 7 swing states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, Wisconsin and Nevada will decide the election this time. Swing states are states that can be won by either candidate in a presidential election. They are also called battleground states. These states are important because they can decide the outcome of the election. Presidential candidates focus a lot of time and energy on winning these states. About 240 million people are eligible to vote in the 2024 US election. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
Georgia is a key swing state in the United States presidential elections. Here's DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh in conversation with Dr. Jeffrey Lazarus, an expert on American politics. They discuss the political dynamics of Georgia, concerns around political discourse, and the personas of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
We are in Atlanta, Georgia, a state that is expected to play a key role in deciding who the next president of the United States is going to be. To talk about it, I have with me US politics expert from Georgia State University, Professor Jeffrey Lazarus. Thank you for joining us. Sir, if you could first help us simplify the political dynamics of Georgia that makes it such a crucial state in these elections.
So, as you probably know, the United States has an electoral college system of electing the president, and the states where there are about equal number of Democrats and Republicans play the most important role. And that's because the candidates actually have a chance of winning those states rather than the lopsided states, which we know in advance are going to go for one candidate or the other. So Georgia is one of those states where there happens to be roughly equal number of Democrats and Republicans. And so we're one of the states that could decide the outcome of the election.
Right. And wherever we've gone to register the early voting, we've seen a trend that the numbers have been high as compared to the recent past. Is this record number of early voting politically significant? What do we infer from it?
Well, the main thing we can infer is that there is a record level of interest in this race. The stakes are very high because of who the candidates are, and as a result, more people are interested in voting than ever before. It's really difficult to infer whether this is favorable for one candidate or the other because we just don't know who's voting.
There have been little concerns about the level of political discourse that we've witnessed in the recent days, especially these racial slurs, there is political name-calling also from both sides. Is this just shallow politics, or is this sort of strategic dog whistling to polarize an election which is already so polarized and divided, according to you?
Well, I would disagree that the name-calling is equivalent on both sides. The way I see it is Republicans have been calling Democrats names, not just this election, but for the past, well, as long as Donald Trump has been a force in American politics, 8 years, much more than Democrats have. And I do think it represents a shift in what the Republican Party stands for and what their values are.
Dr. Lazarus, thank you very much for speaking with DD India. Professor Jeffrey Lazarus talking about the political dynamics and the trends just ahead of the big election day on November 5th, which will decide the next president of the United States. With camera person Jaishankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Atlanta.
The Festival of Lights is gaining recognition in the United States, with states like Pennsylvania, New York and Texas granting official holiday status to Diwali. DD India's Amritpal Singh reports from Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania has become the first state in the United States of America to officially declare Diwali as a public holiday. And the Indian community here is making most of the holiday doing up their homes for friends and family to come visiting, putting out diyas and lights and marigolds, making rangolis and thronging temples for puja.
Well, the way the community celebrates Diwali depends on where we're celebrating. Of course, in our individual homes, we're celebrating in ways that probably don't look all that different than it does in India. We're doing our pujas, we're cleaning our house, we're decorating, we're cooking all of the traditional we're cooking or ordering all of the traditional sweets and savories, and we're inviting over friends and family. But at the community level, there's also a number of celebrations. Many communities will have a big gala dinner. Others have sometimes talent shows to showcase our culture. It's a way of preserving and celebrating our culture.
We have this very good place around our home, that's Samarpan Temple. We usually come here, bow down to God. We do Chopra Pujan here, which is like a ritual that we follow, and then we eat sweets and then celebrate with firecrackers and stuff like that.
We all sit together. First we pray the God for everybody, to the whole peaceness of the world. Then we can bring a lot of sweets.
Texas and New York have followed suit. As Halloween and Diwali coincide this year, the festive mood prevails on the streets. Where I am in Pennsylvania, fireworks are not allowed by law due to the threat of fire. But short of this, the Indian Americans come to temples, do their prayers, pujas, dress up in colorful Indian attire, exchange sweets, greetings, and enjoy it together, trying to find and connect with their identity of Indianness on this foreign soil. With cameraman Sanjay Jena, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Pennsylvania.
Meanwhile, Diwali celebrations were held across the US with prominent leaders extending wishes on the festival. In a post on social media site X, President Joe Biden said, and I quote, "This Diwali, may we show the power in gathering of light." Vice President Kamala Harris posted a video showing her celebrating Diwali. US Vice Presidential hopeful Tim Walz also joined Diwali celebrations in his country. In a post on X, he said he was honored to light a diya to celebrate Diwali and recognize the many contributions South Asians have made to the nation.
Sense of love on this days of light over darkness. I hope you all find peace, find the calm, and save a little energy to celebrate next Wednesday morning. So, thank you.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken extended his greetings on Diwali. In a social media post, he said, "Diwali is more than just a festival. It's a powerful reminder of the values we all cherish: patience, togetherness, kindness, and unity." Economist Geeta Gopinath shared a video showing the White House military band playing Om Jai Jagdish Hare during Diwali celebrations. The White House hosted a Diwali celebration to honor the contributions of Indian Americans to the US-India bond. Recently, American First Lady Jill Biden and President Joe Biden hosted a Diwali celebration in the White House on the 28th of October, inviting Indian Americans from across the United States to attend. This was the couple's last Diwali celebration as President and First Lady. Over the years, the Biden's Diwali celebration has added a unique touch to this luminous tradition. India's Parliamentary and Minority Affairs Minister Kiran Rijiju on Thursday celebrated Diwali with army jawans at the border area of Bumla in Arunachal Pradesh, where he also briefly encountered Chinese troops along the line of actual control. Sharing his experience on social media, Rijiju expressed pride in India's border development. During his visit, he left a marker with his name and the date at a designated point in the military post. The United Arab Emirates transformed into a vibrant celebration of lights and culture as the Hindu festival of Diwali sweeps across the nation. The festivities evolved into a countrywide event embracing all communities. In Burdubai, locally known as Mini India, residents have been preparing for weeks, decorating homes and shopping for traditional items. Educational institutions across the UAE joined the celebrations, with students and teachers wearing traditional ethnic attire. Major landmarks across Dubai have organized special events. The festival, while maintaining its traditional religious significance, has emerged as a symbol of the UAE's multicultural fabric, bringing together people from various backgrounds in a shared celebration of light and unity.
It's just amazing being here. There's so many different cultures, especially this is my favorite one, the Indian one. All the foods are delicious, the jewelry, the color, the lights are amazing. It's just such a great feeling around here.
Meanwhile, the festival of Diwali was also celebrated by the Indian diaspora in Sri Lanka. Lamps, lanterns and fireworks were lit to mark the triumph of light over darkness, good over evil and knowledge over ignorance. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that Israel has the capability to reach anywhere in Iran. US says North Korean troops are ready for Ukraine combat. North Korea successfully test fires a new intercontinental ballistic missile. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munman Bhattacharya. United States pushed for a diplomatic resolution to end the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah as a rocket attack by Hezbollah on Israel claimed at least 7 civilians' lives. Hezbollah said it had launched several rockets and artillery attacks against Israeli forces. Israeli air defenses intercepted rockets fired from Lebanon as the IDF, which is the Israel's defense forces, continued its campaign against Hezbollah. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that there has been progress on requirements for the implementation of a UNSC resolution which calls for withdrawal of Hezbollah from the Israel-Lebanon border.
This would be the basis of a diplomatic resolution to the crisis. It's important to make sure that we have clarity, both from Lebanon and from Israel, about what would be required under 1701 to get its effective implementation. The withdrawal of Hezbollah forces from the border, the deployment of the Lebanese armed forces, the authorities under which they'd be acting, an appropriate enforcement mechanism.
Days after Israel launched airstrikes on Iran, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Israel has the capability to reach anywhere in Iran should the need arise.
Israel today has more freedom of action in Iran than ever. We can reach any place in Iran as necessary. The supreme goal I gave to Israel Defense Forces and the security branches is to prevent Iran from achieving a nuclear weapon.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin discussed opportunities for regional de-escalation with his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant during a phone call. Austin reviewed prospects for a hostage release and a ceasefire deal. In a statement, Gallant's office said that the Israeli defense minister briefed Austin on the success of Israel's strikes on Iran and also discussed strategic opportunities that may have arisen. Joining us now is our correspondent Akshay Dongre from our New Delhi newsroom. Akshay, senior American officials have returned to West Asia and they are trying to reach a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Also, Antony Blinken has said that negotiators had made some good progress on a potential deal. So what more do we know?
Well, there are certain claims that have been made by the top leadership when it comes to the US government. In fact, given the fact that elections are going on, it seems like more of a optimistic statements that are being made by the US government officials, because when it comes to the ground, nothing much has changed. And this is quite visible from the increasing number of incidents now coming in, where Israeli defense forces are carrying out increasing number of attacks, more sophisticated attacks against its adversaries, and Hezbollah along with Iran and Hamas forces trying to up their ante as far as attacking the areas of Israel are concerned, especially the military establishments. Now the attack that has been carried out by Hezbollah is one of the deadliest attacks that the group has carried out in the northern Israel, which has resulted in 7 deaths of civilians, and that gives us the gravity of the situation, that something that hasn't happened as of now in this conflict has started to happen now, and the statements that have been made, the efforts that have been made rather by the US leadership and the appeals are falling on deaf ears as of now. There can be some optimism coming in from the US government statements. However, when it comes to the ground, the region remains on the edge of a full-blown war with deadly and devastating consequences, not just for the region but for the global economy as well.
Akshay, Israeli intelligence indicates that Iran is preparing an attack on Israel from Iraqi territory in the coming days, potentially before the US presidential election on 5th November. Also, Netanyahu, we heard warning that Israel can reach anywhere in Iran. So what could be coming?
Well, from the recent attack that has been carried out by Israel, Munmun, we have seen that there are intel reports coming in that Israel has carried out specific attacks on the missile defense capabilities of the Iranian government and the Iranian defense forces, especially when we talk about the S-300 that have been deployed in the country. Most of these attacks were successful. Many of the S-300 units are reportedly destroyed, and that has left Iran vulnerable to more attacks coming in from the Israeli defense forces. Now, Israel has an edge, or rather an upper hand when it comes to defense capabilities or offensive capabilities in an open conflict with Israeli Air Force, having F-35s in their arsenal, which the aircraft can actually go into the Iranian airspace even with a missile defense system. Because of its stealth capabilities, it can carry out attacks and come back like it has done in recent few days. And now with S-300s destroyed and the major dent that Iran has received by the Israel Defense Forces in its missile defense capabilities, Iran is more vulnerable to any kind of attacks when it comes to civilian areas, military areas. So the report of Iran planning an attack through the Iraqi regime or through the Iraqi territory may not be absolutely correct, but can also not be ruled out completely.
We'll leave it at that. Akshay Dongre reporting from New Delhi. North Korea successfully test-fired a new intercontinental ballistic missile dubbed Hwasong-19. North Korea's state-run media showed a video of the missile test carried out on Thursday, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un watching the launch at the site. North Korea said the launch had the longest flight time compared to previous launches. The Hwasong-19 demonstrated the range to strike nearly anywhere in the United States.
Tensions again rose at Korean Peninsula after North Korea conducted what appeared to be its longest ever intercontinental ballistic missile test on Thursday.
Our military detected a long-range ballistic missile fired into the East Sea from the Pyongyang around 7 a.m. today. North Korea's ballistic missile was launched at the high angle and hit the East Sea after flew around 1,000 kilometers, and our military has been chasing North Korea's preparation for the launch of ballistic missiles in close cooperation with the United States.
The launch drew swift condemnation from South Korea, Japan and the United States.
North Korea's action, including the repeated launch of missiles, is a threat to our country, region and to the international community's peace and security, and cannot be tolerated.
Our military condemns Kim Jong-un regime's illicit and reckless provocation and strongly urges North Korea to immediately halt all actions undermining the peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula and the international community, including the continued sending of trash balloons, dispatching troops to Russia as human shields, and preparing for nuclear test.
While Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said Beijing is closely following developments after North Korea tested an intercontinental missile test on the same day. Pyongyang's test comes amid rising alarm over what the United States and others say is North Korea's deployment of 11,000 troops to Russia, 3,000 of them close to the western front lines with Ukraine.
We now assess that there are some 10,000 North Korean soldiers in total in Russia. And the most recent information indicates that as many as 8,000 of those North Korean forces have been deployed to the Kursk region. We've not yet seen these troops deploy into combat against Ukrainian forces, but we would expect that to happen in the coming days. Russia has been training DPRK soldiers in artillery, UAVs, basic infantry operations, including trench clearing, indicating that they fully intend to use these forces in frontline operations.
Meanwhile, the United States and South Korean Air Forces conducted joint aerial drills on Thursday in response to North Korea's missile launch. Bureau Report, DD India.
Pakistan's Foreign Office has called Chinese ambassador's remark on the country's security situation as surprising and not reflective of bilateral diplomatic traditions. On Wednesday, Chinese ambassador to Pakistan, Jiang Zhaidong, urged the Pakistani government to launch a crackdown on anti-China terror groups following 2 deadly attacks within 6 months. He called the attacks on Chinese nationals in March and October this year unacceptable. Taiwan cleaned up the debris on Friday, a day after powerful typhoon Kongray swept through the island. Workers raced to remove the debris, removing trees and damaged structures on Friday, as locals called on authorities to look into prevention mechanism in case another disaster hits. The fire department put the death toll at 2, one person whose truck was hit by a falling tree in central Taiwan and another in Taipei who was hit by an electricity pole. Authorities also reported 515 injuries. In Spain, cleanup efforts are underway after a trail of destruction was left due to the deadly floods. Teams from Spain's military emergency unit started cleaning up highways near Valencia 3 days after the flash floods that killed 158 people. The disaster could become Europe's worst storm-related disaster in over 5 decades. A year's worth of rain fell in 8 hours in parts of the Valencia region on Tuesday. European Union has expressed their concern on the devastating conditions caused due to recent flooding in Spain. While addressing the media during COP16, European Commission envoy Florica Finck-Huijer called the floods catastrophic.
A tragedy like this one is not just a Spanish one, it really affects all of us in Europe. It's also important to see that such devastating impacts, these sort of flash floods, of course they're exacerbated by climate change and by the high temperatures and the drought. But all of this is also because of the drought, again, then biodiversity has been lost. So it's an illustration of what is going wrong for the moment in the world.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world. The Dragons of Westeros could finally be coming to the big screen, as at least one Game of Thrones movie is in very early stages of development as per reports. The original HBO Game of Thrones television show became a global cultural phenomena during its 8-season run from 2011 to 2019, garnering huge audiences and a record 59 Emmys. Showcasing ancient Chinese culture, a special exhibition of Journey Through Civilizations, an encounter with Liangzhu, was put up in Lima, Peru. Listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2019, the exhibition focuses on the exquisite jade artifacts of Liangzhu culture and introduces ancient city ruins, water conservancy efforts and systems, socially stratified symmetries, and other unearthed cultural relics. And Thailand's Ministry of Culture has chosen Mu Deng, a 3-month-old pygmy hippopotamus that became an internet sensation, as the official presenter for the upcoming Loy Krathong festival. The initiative aims to leverage the pygmy hippo's global appeal to promote Thai traditions, starting with the Loy Krathong festival. Mu Deng was presented with a Thai cuteness certificate as the country's cultural ambassador. still to come on DD India News Hour. Analysis on the current situation in Bangladesh. India and Albania hold bilateral talks in Tirana. And India's first analog space mission kicks off in Leh. Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. A recap of the headlines. In the United States, a tight presidential race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump as both try to win over undecided voters. Donald Trump condemns violence against minorities in Bangladesh, vows to boost ties with India. Rocket fire from Lebanon kills 7 in Israel as US officials try to push for a ceasefire. Donald Trump has strongly condemned the violence against Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh. The Republican presidential candidate has vowed to strengthen his ties with India and called Prime Minister Narendra Modi his quote-unquote good friend. Trump said Bangladesh remains in a total state of chaos and alleged his Democratic rival Vice President Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden have ignored Hindus across the world and in America. In July and August, several members of the Hindu community in Bangladesh were attacked by mobs after a students' agitation over a controversial quota system turned into a massive anti-government protest, which resulted in the ouster of Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And joining us for perspective now is Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, former Indian High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh. High Commissioner, such a pleasure to have you on DD India. Well, Trump is echoing India's concerns on the state of minorities in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, you would recall, saw more than 2,000 incidents of communal violence against religious minorities in just 16 days. We saw that from the 4th to the 20th of August. It is interesting what Trump has said, given that the UK and US have otherwise adopted a different stance towards, as far as, compared to India, towards the Hasina government and Bangladesh as a whole. So what do you make of the state of minorities there under the interim government?
Well, it's a recurrence of something that we have seen over the last so many years since the partition of 1947. There have been spikes in atrocities on Hindus. 47 was one, and then of course came later on because the Pakistanis decided that they wanted a pure Muslim country. So the Hindus were being driven out. Communal violence was being instigated till, as you remember, historically, there was a Nehru Liaquat Pact, which basically meant that, that Hindus should not be driven out of Bangladesh or Pakistan, or then East Pakistan. But that didn't work, and we continued to have 1965 war, 1971 war, and in between, it goes on. It never stops, really, because the whole issue of the Muslim fundamentalists in Bangladesh who want an Islamic state. So in an Islamic state, like it has happened in Pakistan, that there are hardly any Hindus left in it. So this is the sad reality of our subcontinent, and it goes back to the partition days. And even during Hasina's time, we have seen Hindus coming in less numbers, in a trickle, because somebody in Bangladesh wants to grab their land and etc. So they are threatened, and their women folk are threatened and sometimes kidnapped, raped, and converted. So that's the kind of thing we have seen in both Pakistan and now
Bangladesh. Okay. Taking that point further, Islamist hardliners have been emboldened by Hasina's exit, we are seeing, and some want even an Islamic caliphate established in Bangladesh. The law and order situation remains tenuous, to put it in soft words. Police officers fear for their own lives, they fear retaliatory action. Protests are taking place still because they are now calling for the ouster of the Bangladesh president. Could there be then further backsliding into chaos, or do you think these promised reforms that have been promised by the Muhammad Yunus interim government will make a difference going forward?
I think reforms is a good slogan, but whether they will actually happen or not is anybody's guess. There are six reforms commission. It's easy to talk about reforms and put things on paper, but how do you implement them? There is no legislative, backup to this. After all, this is an unelected government, and it has no constitutional status. So all that they are trying to do is basically to appease the students, the Jamaatis, the Islamists who had infiltrated the students' movement and converted it with foreign help, particularly American help, into a regime change operation. That is a fact. It has all come out. So whether these reforms will work or not, I am a bit doubtful. They might come up with, reports of reforms. They said about 3 months, so let's see what reforms. But unless the reforms are embedded in the Constitution, and that Constitution needs to be passed by a 2/3 majority in Parliament, then only it will become viable or legal. At the moment, these are all, on paper.
Right. Taking that point further, alongside a focus on law and order, another priority is managing the country's growing economic crisis. The numbers have just come in for the April to June quarter, and we are also seeing rising inflation, and that's led to increased fuel and food prices and a stagnant private sector. Will it be a long haul?
Of course, it's going to be a long haul. The kind of violent regime change that has happened, and and also the attacks on the Hindus, which, by the way, has gone up to more than 4,000 incidents. They are still documenting it, and it keeps happening every day. Some charge is made against somebody, and Hindus are harassed, picked up, arrested. And of course, they are being systematically weeded out of the administration also. For example, there's a recent order that those trainees at the police training college, who obviously this government thinks were all Awami League supporters or whatever, they have been discharged. They can no longer become police officers. And a lot of them are Hindus. So this is the kind of actions this government is taking, the interim government, which makes me feel that they are under the thumb of the Islamists. The Jamaat-e-Islami, the Hifazat, and Islami Andolan, and then they have released the famous, the infamous and notorious terrorist, who killed so many atheist bloggers, etc., who has since threatened India, and who wants, who has appealed to Chief Minister of West Bengal to secede from India, and also asked the northeastern states to, cut off ties with India. That's the kind of rhetoric coming out of these, extremist, Islamist leaders and groups.
Yes, building on that point, High Commissioner, Hasina's arrival in New Delhi led to an immediate response from India, and India had upped security along its partly unfenced land border with Bangladesh. We'd also withdrawn families of diplomatic staff from diplomatic missions across the country, and even advised around 10,000 Indian nationals there on their safety. Also, Indian institutions were destroyed to an extent. So what are the security implications for India, you fear?
Well, I think one thing is that increase in terrorism, because these groups have become emboldened and they have been released. So they will go back to what they have done before. And under Hasina, they were under check. Many of them had been convicted and imprisoned. Now they have been, released by this government. What does it indicate? It indicates that this government feels that they were innocent or whatever. And then they will go back to what they were trying to do earlier. So we have to be very careful. I foresee an increase in terrorism from Bangladesh, infiltration also for that purpose. And we have to therefore be very, 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 very vigilant at the border. And we must use all means at our command to ensure that this kind of infiltration does not take place. They may already have sleeper cells in India. Hence, all the states in India must be very vigilant.
Okay.
And they have to go after, based on information against any of these illegal Bangladeshis who live and work in India, because they may be part of the sleeper models of these groups.
Okay, so serious security implications for India. We'll leave it at that. High Commissioner Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, pleasure to have you on DD India. Moving on, India and Albania held bilateral consultations in Tirana in Albania, and both sides discussed the entire spectrum of bilateral relations and exchanged views on regional and international issues of mutual interest. Bilateral discussions included political relations, trade, cultural relations and people-to-people contacts. India opened its resident mission in Albania in August 2024. India's first analog space mission kicks off in Leh, highlighting the country's growing role in global space research and technology development. The experiment is a collaboration between ISRO, its Human Space Flight Center, the University of Ladakh, IIT Bombay and Arca Space Studio. One of the primary focuses of this mission is to develop a life support systems capable of sustaining human life for extended periods without reliance on Earth. Now look at some other news stories making news. Railways is making major changes in the rules for booking reserved tickets for trains from Friday. The advanced reservation period in Indian Railways has been reduced from 120 days to 60 days from the 1st of November. This move by the Indian Railways will reduce the ticket hoarding issues and will make more tickets available for genuine passengers. Prominent economist Vibhuti Dey has passed away at the age of 69. He was admitted to AIIMS in New Delhi. A recipient of the Padma Shri, Dey served as the chairman of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. Condoling Dey's demise, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi called him a towering scholar. Taking to X, PM Modi said that through his works, Dey left an indelible mark on India's intellectual landscape. Still to come on DD India News Hour. Amid Diwali festivities, Indian stock market readies for the annual Muhurat trading session, a special one-hour event during which investors have a 60-minute window to conduct trades. $7 billion IMF bailout at risk as Pakistan's economy continues to weaken. Home hopeful Hugo Humbert dumps world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz as he takes an early exit, losing in round of 16 at the Paris Masters.
Who will be the next president of United States of America?
Will Donald Trump make a dramatic comeback, or will Kamala Harris become America's first woman president?
It's a tight race to the White House.
The knives are out and the battle lines sharply drawn.
He's becoming increasingly unstable and unhinged.
She's a threat to democracy because she shouldn't even be the candidate.
I'm Amritpal Singh.
I'm Shubhendu Ghosh.
We travel across the United States
To decode the issues at the heart of this polarized election.
Watch this space only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munman Bhattacharya. Time now for business news. As the festival of lights, Diwali, ushers in prosperity and joy, investors across India are preparing for a fresh financial start with the much anticipated Diwali Muhurat trading session. Indian markets will observe special Muhurat trading today from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. India time. Muhurat trading is a special 1-hour trading session conducted by the BSE Sensex and National Stock Exchange on Diwali, marking the start of the Hindu New Year. It will allow traders and investors to make auspicious investments, believing it brings wealth and prosperity for the coming year. During this hour, the market typically sees increased participation as traders, families and even new investors place trades to honor tradition. Stocks are often picked for their long-term potential, and the session is marked by a festive and optimistic atmosphere on both exchanges, symbolizing new beginnings and financial growth. Pakistan is facing challenges in implementing the $7 billion bailout deal with the International Monetary Fund due to incorrect assumptions that it made. Official statistics show that out of 4 key underlying assumptions for achieving the nearly 13 trillion rupees tax target, the economic growth rate, inflation, large-scale manufacturing and imports, 3 assumptions have already been proven wrong by the end of the first quarter of the current financial year. The Federal Board of Revenue's tax collection and provincial cash surpluses have fallen short in the first quarter. The IMF has pressured Pakistan to devalue the rupee further, complicating the situation. The European Commission plans to investigate Chinese online shopping platform Temu over possible violation of its Digital Services Act. Joining us now is DW correspondent Chiponda Chimbelu in Berlin. Chiponda, can you break down what the EU is planning?
Well, the European Commission says its probe is linked to the sale of illegal products and whether Temu has done enough to prevent that. And other issues in the investigation include Temu's potentially addictive design, systems that recommend products to users, and data access for researchers. Now, Temu has taken much of the world by storm. And last year, the ultra-low-cost shopping platform was the most downloaded app in France and Germany. That's also why any potential violations are a major source of concern for the European Commission. Unlike other e-commerce retailers, like Amazon and Zalando, Temu cuts out middlemen and links buyers directly to manufacturers in China. And that means goods are sent straight from Chinese factories or warehouses to European buyers. Now, that model also raises questions as to whether there are systems to ensure products meet EU standards.
Okay.
Well, the European Commission.
Yes, Chiponda, what does this investigation then mean for Temu?
In the investigation, data access for researchers. Now, Temu has taken much of the world by storm. And last year, the ultra-low-cost shopping platform was the most downloaded app in France and Germany. That's also why any potential violations are a major source of concern for the European Commission. Unlike other e-commerce retailers, like Amazon and Zalando, Temu cuts out middlemen and links buyers directly to manufacturers in China. And that means goods are sent straight from Chinese factories or warehouses to European buyers. Now, that model also raises questions as to whether there are systems to ensure products meet EU standards.
So there you heard the investigation that is going on as far as the Chinese online shopping platform Temu is concerned. There are allegations of a possible violation of the Digital Services Act, and the European Commission is planning to investigate that. Well, time now for all the sports action. And joining us is my colleague Deepika with that.
Thanks and good afternoon. First, let's talk about cricket. What's happening in the India versus New Zealand Test series? Well, Ravindra Jadeja has surpassed Ishant Sharma and Zaheer Khan in the list of Indian bowlers with most Test wickets. Now, Jadeja struck thrice in the second session to bring India back in the third Test against New Zealand at Mumbai's Wankhede Stadium. Jadeja dismissed Will Young, who scored the first 50 of the series, and Tom Blundell in 1 over before he got the better of Glenn Phillips later in the innings. At tea, New Zealand have put 192 on the board at the loss of 6 wickets. Daryl Mitchell and Ish Sodhi started the proceedings in the third session of the day. Australian men's cricket team will tour Sri Lanka for a 2-match test series as well as 1 off ODI during January-February next year, the Sri Lankan Cricket Board confirmed on Friday. The test series will be a part of the current World Test Championship cycle. Both the tests will be played at the Galle International Cricket Stadium. The first match will begin on the 29th of January, while the second one will start on the 6th of February. The 1-off ODI will be held on the 13th of February, with the venue yet to be confirmed. Both Australia and Sri Lanka have a test series each prior to the next year's duel. Australia is set to host India for a 5-match test series from the 22nd of November till the 7th of January, while the Sri Lankan team will visit South Africa for a 2-match test series from the 27th of November till the 9th of December. The final of the World Test Championship will be held at Lord's from 11th till the 15th of June. In women's cricket, the White Ferns received a warm welcome at Christchurch Airport on Friday as they came back winning New Zealand's first ever T20 Cricket World Cup trophy at T20 Women's Cricket World Cup 2024. Here's more. New Zealand's women's side returned home after registering historic victory at the recently concluded ICC Women's T20 Cricket World Cup 2024. On their arrival, the White Ferns received a warm welcome from friends, family and fans when they landed at Christchurch Airport on Friday with the T20 Cricket World Cup trophy proudly on display. Several enthusiastic fans also greeted the players with their autographs in strong demand. On the 17th of October, New Zealand created history by defeating South Africa in the final of the Women's T20 Cricket World Cup 2024. Their 32-run victory ensured New Zealand had a first-ever T20 Cricket World Cup trophy in men's or women's cricket. In the final, the Kiwis were led to a competitive total of 158 for a loss of 5 wickets after being asked to bat, with Melia Kerr and Brooke Holiday top scoring. Kerr then starred with the ball along with Rosemary as wheels came off the Proteas chase. Kerr was the star of the Kiwi T20 Cricket World Cup campaign and also secured Player of the Tournament honours for her 135 runs and 15 wickets at the event. New Zealand's win was the perfect send-off for Sophie Devine, who was captaining the White Ferns in the format for a final time. Sports Desk, DD India. In tennis, home hopeful Hugo Humbert dumped world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz out of the Paris Masters in the round of 16 with a 6-1, 3-6 and 7-5 upset victory. Humbert got off to a blistering start, breaking Alcaraz twice to secure a 5-0 lead before wrapping up the first set in just 26 minutes. The 4-time Grand Slam winner, Alcaraz, grew into the game, fighting back to take the second set. Humbert held his nerve in a tense third set, breaking Alcaraz on match point to seal a stunning victory and advance to the quarterfinal round where he will meet Jordan Thompson of Australia. Meanwhile, Alex de Minaur ended British number 1 Jack Draper's 7-match winning streak with a 5-7, 6-2, 6-3 victory. De Minaur has now equalled his personal best season victories, equaling to 47. Both Holger Rune and Grigor Dimitrov reached the Paris Master quarterfinals with tough victories. Rune struggled against French lucky loser Arthur. However, Danish 13th seed Rune recovered from a set down to win by 3-6, 6-3 and 6-4.
World number 6 Jessica Pegula has pulled out of the Billie Jean King Cup finals in Spain, scheduled to take place next month. Ashlyn Kruger will take her place on the American team, the US Tennis Association confirmed on Friday. The reason for Pegula's withdrawal hasn't been announced yet. She recently qualified for the WTA finals in Riyadh and last played 3 weeks ago in Wuhan, where she lost in the third round but made it to the doubles final. The US team will face Slovakia in the first round of the Billie Jean King Cup final, scheduled to take place on the 15th of November, with the winner advancing to play Australia in the quarterfinal round. Those were the top highlights of the hour from the world of sports. Back to you.
Thanks, Deepika, for that roundup. Well, it's Halloween time again. So the Halloween festival in the US is a vibrant celebration marked by a mix of spooky fun, community spirit and creativity. Homes and businesses are adorned with a variety of decorations. You'll see everything from carved pumpkins and skeletons to spider webs and eerie lighting. DD India correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh gets us more chills.
As the race for the White House heats up, people in the US have an opportunity to relax, unwind and celebrate thanks to the Halloween festivities. In New York's Times Square, 3 new sculptures have been installed ahead of the annual Day of the Dead celebrations in the coming days. The 3 statues are colorful representations of the Mexican holiday, while according to beliefs, the dead return to Earth to visit their loved ones.
I lost my daughter 9 years ago, so I have a big shrine for her and everything, but it's so beautiful to have this.
In Atlanta, Georgia, we visit a Halloween shop. The shop is all decked up with scary installations, ghostly props, costumes on display to create the typical Halloween spirit and scare. Children could be seen enjoying the displays with family and shopping for trick-and-treat adventures.
Halloween is all about just having fun and, going out and trick-or-treating and stuff like that, getting all your candy and stuff, you know what I'm saying? All that, yeah, parties and stuff, Halloween parties for the older people, you know what I'm saying? It's all fun, it's just a fun day.
It's just like the culture of it, it's just about scaring people, it's supposed to be dressing up. You can really dress up as anything, you don't have to go as something scary.
I would say in America, Halloween is all about what's spooky, dressing up, having fun, getting with family members and friends, and just spending the day basically being something that you're not, I would say.
Halloween is observed on October 31st. Many neighborhoods compete for the most creative displays, turning streets into whimsical and haunted landscapes.
While Halloween has many Christian and pagan roots, it's mostly a day to celebrate with friends and family amid scary costumes, trick-and-treats, and remember one's ancestors. With camera person Jayashankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Atlanta.
Indeed, a time to unwind for Americans ahead of the big day, 5th of November, the Tuesday everyone is waiting for, especially in the United States, the election day. That's all then in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Vibhuti Dey from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.